for this read aloud, we're going to be reading Chapter 1 of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, so please take out your books and follow along with us. Chapter 1 Bruno Makes a Discovery. One afternoon, when Bruno came home from school, he was surprised to find Maria, the family's maid, who had kept her head bowed and never looked up from the carpet, standing in his bedroom, pulling all of his belongings out of the wardrobe and packing them into 4 large crates, even the things he hidden in the back that belonged to him and were nobody else's business.
"What are you doing?" he asked in as polite a tone as he could muster, for although he wasn't happy to come home and find someone going through his possessions, his mother had always told him that he was to treat Maria respectfully and not just imitate the way father spoke to her. "You take your hands off my things." Maria shook her head and pointed towards the staircase behind him, where Bruno's mother had just appeared. She was a tall woman with long red hair that she bundled into a sort of net behind her head, and she was twisting her hands together nervously as if there was something she didn't want to have to say or something she didn't want to have to believe. "Mother," said Bruno, marching towards her, "what's going on? Why is Maria going through my things?"
"She's packing them up," explained Mother. "Packing them up?" he asked, running quickly through the bits of the previous few days to consider if he'd been particularly naughty, or if he'd used words out loud that he wasn't allowed to use and was sent away because of it. He couldn't think of anything, though, for in fact over the last few days he'd behaved in a perfectly decent manner to everyone and couldn't remember causing any chaos at all. Let's stop there. What do you think chaos means? While you think about that, we'll continue to read. "Why?" he asked then, "and what have I done?" Mother had walked into her own bedroom by then, but Lars, the butler, was in there, packing her things too. She sighed and threw her hands in the air with frustration before marching back downstairs, followed by Bruno, who wasn't going to let the matter drop without an explanation.
"Mother," he insisted, "what's going on? Are we moving?" "Come downstairs with me," said Mother, leading the way back towards the large dining room where the Fury had been to dinner the week before. "We'll talk down there." When the author says fury, do you think he means like the angry feeling? Let's ponder that question a little bit while we continue to read. Bruno ran downstairs and even passed her out on the staircase so that he was waiting in the dining room when she arrived. He looked at her without saying anything for a moment and thought to himself that she couldn't have applied her makeup correctly that morning because the rims of her eyes were more red than usual, like his own after he'd been causing chaos and got into trouble and ended up crying.
"Now you don't have to worry, Bruno," said Mother, sitting down in the chair where a beautiful blonde woman who had came to dinner with the Fury had sat and waved at him when Father closed the door. "In fact, if anything it's going to be a new adventure." "What is?" he asked. "Why am I being sent away?" "No, not just you," she said, looking at this might smile for a moment, but thinking better of it. "We all are, your father and I, Gretel and you, all 4 of us." Bruno thought about this and frowned. He wasn't particularly bothered if Gretel was being sent away because she was a hopeless case and caused nothing but trouble for him. But it seemed a little unfair that they all had to go with her.
"But where?" he asked. "Where are we going exactly? Why can't we stay here?" "Your father's job," explained Mother. "You know how important it is, don't you?" "Yes, of course," said Bruno, nodding his head, because there were always so many visitors to the house, men in fantastic uniforms, women with typewriters that he had to keep his mucky hands off, and they were always very polite to Father and told each other that he was a man to watch and that the Fury had big things in mind for him. "Well, sometimes when someone is very important," continued Mother, "the man who employs him asks him to go somewhere else because there's a very special job that needs doing there." "What kind of job?" asked Bruno, because if he was honest with himself, which he always tried to be, he wasn't entirely sure what job Father did.
In school they talked about their fathers one day, and Carl said that his father was a greengrocer, which Bruno knew to be true because he ran the greengrocer shop in the center of town. And Daniel said his father was a teacher, which Bruno knew to be true because he taught the big boys, who was always wise to steer clear of. And Martin had said his father was a chef, which Bruno knew to be true because he sometimes collected Martin from school, and when he did, he always wore a white smock and a tartan apron, as if he just stepped out of the kitchen. But when he asked Bruno what his father did, his mouth flew open to tell him and then realized he didn't know for himself. All he could say was his father was a man to watch and that the Fury had big things in mind for him. Oh, and he had a fantastic uniform, too.
It's a very important job, said Mother, hesitating for a moment. A job that needs a special man to do it. You can understand that, can't you? And we all have to go too? Asked Bruno. Well, of course we do, said Mother. You wouldn't want Father to go to his new job on his own and be lonely there, would you? I suppose not, said Bruno. Father would miss us all terribly if we weren't with him, she added. Well, who would he miss the most? Asked Bruno. Me or Gretel?
He would miss you both equally, said Mother, for she was a great believer in not playing favorites, which Bruno respected, sorry, especially since he knew that he was her favorite really. But what about our house? Asked Bruno. Who's going to take care of it while we're gone? Mother sighed and looked around the room as if she might never see it again. It was a very beautiful house and had 5 floors in total, if you include the basement where the cooks made all the food and Maria and Laura sat at the table, arguing with each other and calling each other names that you weren't supposed to use. And if you added the little room on the top of the house with the slanted windows where Bruno could see right across Berlin if he stood up on his tippy toes and held onto the frame tightly.
We have to close up the house for now, said Mother, but we'll come back to it some day. And what about Cook? Asked Bruno. And Lars and Maria? Are they not going to live in it? Well, they're coming with us, explained Mother. But that's enough questions for now. Maybe you should go back upstairs and help Maria with your packing. Bruno stood up from the seat but didn't go anywhere. There were just a few more questions he needed to put to her before he could allow the matter to be settled. And how far away is it? He asked. The new job, I mean. Is it further than a mile away? Oh my, said Mother with a laugh. Although it was a strange kind of laugh because she didn't look happy and turned away from Bruno as if she didn't want to see her face. Yes, Bruno, she said. It's more than a mile away. Quite a lot more than that, in fact.
Bruno's eyes opened wide and his mouth made a shape of an O. He held his arms stretching out to his side like they did whenever something surprised him. You don't mean we're leaving Berlin? He asked, grasping for air as if he got the last word out. I'm afraid so, said Mother, nodding her head. Sadly, your father's job is. But what about school? Said Bruno, interrupting her. A thing he knew he was not supposed to do, but which he felt he would be forgiven for on this occasion. And what about Carl and Daniel and Martin? How will they know where I am when we want to do things together?
Well, you'll have to say goodbye to your friends for the time being, said Mother, although I'm sure you'll see them again in time. And don't interrupt your mother when she's talking, please, she added, for although this was strange and unpleasant news, there was certainly no need for Bruno to break the rules of politeness which he had been taught. Say goodbye to them? He asked, staring at her in surprise. Say goodbye to them? He repeated, spluttering out the words as if his mouth was full of biscuits that he'd munched into tiny pieces, but not actually swallowed yet. Say goodbye to Carl and Daniel and Martin, he continued, his voice coming dangerously close to shouting, which was not allowed indoors. But they're my 3 best friends for life.
Oh, you'll make other friends, said Mother, waving her hand in the air dismissively, as if it was making of the boys 3 best friends for life was an easy thing. Think about what dismissively means. Why is she waving her hands? Like, is she showing off the idea? But we had plans, he protested. Plans? Asked Mother, raising an eyebrow. What sort of plans? Well, that would be telling, said Bruno, who could not reveal the exact nature of the plans, which included causing a lot of chaos, especially in a few weeks' time when school finished for the summer holiday and didn't have to spend all their time making plans. They could actually put some of those to effect instead. I'm sorry, Bruno, said Mother, but your plans are just gonna have to wait. We don't have a choice in this.
But Mother, Bruno, that's enough, she said, snapping at him now and standing up to show him that she was serious when she said that was enough. Honestly, only last week you were complaining about how much things have changed here recently. Well, I don't like the way we have to turn all the lights off at night now, he admitted. Everyone has to do that, said Mother. It keeps